There are seasons in life when everything feels suspended. Days blend together. The work feels unchanged. The pain seems unmoved. The horizon lies hidden in fog. In these moments, fear does not arrive with thunder. It comes quietly, with a whisper that pretends to be truth. It tells you this is forever, that the wheel has stopped turning, that you are trapped. But the Stoic, trained by reflection and anchored in reality, knows better. They hold to a deeper truth that steadies the heart. Nothing remains still. Life is always in motion. No shape holds forever, not joy, not grief, not even despair. Suffering, too, has its season. The Stoic does not use this knowledge to excuse inaction, but to endure with patience. They trust time not as an enemy to outlast, but as a river that carves valleys and clears paths. Change is the law, not the exception. So they do not thrash against the current or curse the stillness of fate. They breathe, they center themselves, they endure with intention. The Stoic does not simply wait, they prepare, for they know no triumph lasts endlessly and no hardship breathes forever. Just as nature shifts through wind, fire, rain, and stillness, so too do our circumstances. The task is not to control the timing of the shift, but to transform the self while the world is still unsettled. This is what the Stoic practices, cultivating inner steadiness when clarity fades. Strengthening purpose in the shadows. Waiting with courage for dawn. Because change will come. It always does. And when it arrives, you will either meet it ready or unprepared. The Stoic chooses readiness. So must you. Chapter 1. Accept the storm without demanding the forecast. The Stoic does not beg the future for answers. They know that forcing clarity from what has not yet unfolded only breeds suffering. Worry feeds on prediction. What if this never ends? What if nothing shifts? What if I am stuck forever? But these questions are born of fear, not reason. The Stoic answers differently. They shift attention from outcome to action, from speculation to strength. For in nature storms pass, mountains endure, trees bloom in their own season, rhythm exists even within disorder, and seasons change without human permission. So too does hardship. Loneliness is not endless. Failure does not define forever. A dry season in work, in love, in spirit. None of it is fixed. The mind clings to false permanence only when it forgets how many times it has already survived transformation. It only feels permanent when seen through a narrow lens, one clouded by fear and shortened by pain. The Stoic learns to widen that lens each day, to create space in the mind, to see a horizon that stretches beyond the moment, one breath and one thought at a time. For they know, tunnel vision shrinks the soul. So they expand their awareness through steady practice. Through reflection, stillness, and deliberate effort, they dismantle the illusion that the present is all that will ever be. They remember the future is not built on frantic thought or desperate wishing. It is shaped through faithful effort, repeated in silence, by showing up again and again to the life right in front of them. You do not need to know when change will arrive. You only need to know who you are while you wait. Ask yourself, am I growing in this waiting? Do I keep my values when no one applauds them? Do I live with honor when there is no recognition? What choices do I uphold when no reward is offered? What integrity do I keep when the path is hidden in mist? This is where character is formed, not in the noise of celebration, but in the quiet crucible of uncertainty. Worry makes demands, discipline makes progress, panic pleads, courage prepares, fear scrambles for answers. The Stoic builds strength to face whatever answer comes. In practice, they journal not to capture perfection, but to face truth. They meditate not to escape, but to see more clearly. They train their body not only for health, but to remind the mind that effort is sacred. They guard their tongue, not out of weakness, but because they are strong enough to master impulse. They pray, reflect, and shape their actions with care, not to impress the world, but to stay anchored in a world that drifts. They know storms will come. They no longer try to avoid the weather. Instead, they build resilience. Each day they strengthen their roots through habit, through honesty, through repetition, not preparing if the wind comes, but when it does. And when it does, they do not fall. They bend, they endure, and in time, they rise taller for having held their ground. When worry begins to spiral, pause. Truly pause. Breathe. Feel the ground beneath you, the breath within you, the space between fear and focus. Ask with clarity, what can I control today? Not tomorrow's uncertainty, not the choices of others, not the outcome I crave, but the small, steady action I can take right now that reflects the person I wish to become. The Stoic does not chase perfect timing or ideal conditions. They work with what is at hand, standing where they are, even when the ground feels uncertain, and so should you. Begin with what you can, however small. Wipe the counter, step outside, write a page, lift the weight, speak with kindness, honor your word, send the message you've delayed, sit in silence for 5 minutes. These are not distractions. They are anchors. They tether you to presence, to purpose. Each small task becomes a declaration, not of mastery, but of movement. Each choice a seed, not for immediate reward, but for lasting strength. Never underestimate the quiet power of steady motion. It is not dramatic, but it is essential. The Stoic does not wait for a sweeping solution before they move. They reclaim agency in the smallest of choices. Each act of discipline, each moment of clarity, each step away from self-pity becomes resistance against chaos. Repeated daily, these choices form an armor no storm can penetrate. Let your actions be quiet declarations of stability. Let them remind you that you are never powerless. The storm outside does not decide the calm within. That calm is not the absence of fear, it is the presence of clarity, built patiently, response by response, until it steadies the soul. It is choosing stillness when noise surrounds you, choosing one right step when confusion tempts you with 1,000 wrong ones, reminding yourself, the world may rage, but I can remain. Life may tremble, but I can stand. This becomes the practice. This becomes the peace, the evidence that you are forged in stillness, not broken by waiting. Chapter 2. Patience is not passive. Patience is often misunderstood. Many believe it means folding your hands, lowering your eyes, and calling inactivity a virtue. But the Stoic sees patience differently. To them, patience is one of the highest forms of strength. It is not waiting for events to unfold. It is preparing for when they do. Patience is endurance in motion, progress without complaint, effort without applause, consistency without recognition. It is loyalty to discipline even when the results are hidden. The Stoic does not wait for the world's attention. They know that visibility is not proof of value. Quiet seasons become their opportunity to deepen, to grow more rooted, more capable, more whole. When life slows, they refine. When progress halts, they return to practice. They study not only the wisdom of others, but the patterns within themselves. They reflect, and through reflection, they carve clarity. They polish the unseen, the integrity of thought, the tone of self-talk, the honesty that guides decisions. When you feel stuck in work, in love, in health, it is easy to believe you've been punished, forgotten, delayed without reason. The mind writes stories that you failed, that your time has passed, that nothing good will return. Each day of stillness feels like a verdict. Each moment of silence feels like a sentence. But the Stoic refuses to draw conclusions from silence. They do not confuse stillness with abandonment. They have trained themselves to see pause as preparation, not punishment. They remind themselves what looks like inactivity may be the most important work of all. It is root work, quiet recalibration. A field does not bloom all year. The soil must rest. Winter is not failure, but part of the design. It deepens roots, matures the structure, and settles the seed. Spring only has meaning because winter prepared the way. So it is with life. You cannot not grow outward at all times, but you can prepare for growth. Preparation is a subtler kind of progress. It is invisible strength, built in silence, resolve forged without an audience, armor shaped without applause. The Stoic understands this rhythm, the ebb and flow of all things. They do not panic when the tide recedes. Instead, they build ships in the harbor. They train in the quiet. They sharpen their thoughts in the dark. They refine what cannot be seen. For quiet seasons are not wasted time. They are hidden chapters of transformation, the scaffolding of what will one day be visible. In silence, the Stoic becomes precise. While others dwell on what is missing, the Stoic focuses on what is within their reach. They do not chase chaos. They cultivate calm. They lower the volume of panic and turn their energy inward, reshaping perspective, rebuilding habits, realigning values. They clean the mind. They return to what matters. They recommit to steady motion even when the world feels paused. While others freeze in doubt, the Stoic continues with quiet steps, each one deliberate. Their stillness is not emptiness. It carries effort, measured breath, sharpened thought, disciplined restraint. This is clarity, proof they are not ruled by noise, not swayed by the absence of applause. They plant seeds in winter. They study the soil when others curse the season. They remain faithful to what is unseen because all growth begins beneath the surface. The Stoic knows change is inevitable. Waiting is not weakness. It is its own discipline, its own battlefield. It demands courage, equal to action, sometimes greater. To wait well is to master impulse, to invest deeply in the inner world, so that when the outer world shifts, you are already prepared. And when change comes, as it always does, the Stoic is not scrambling. They are not lost, not starting from nothing. They are already aligned with momentum, already moving with the current. Sharpened by stillness, forged in restraint, ready for what lies ahead. In the quiet, they have become steady, composed, and unshaken. For the Stoic knows this. Those who endure in silence often rise the highest when the silence breaks. The tallest trees grow slow. The deepest roots are never visible. Use seasons when nothing seems to change as an invitation to change yourself. These are sacred windows for growth, moments when distractions are fewer and attention can turn inward. Rise earlier, not because the world demands it, but because your discipline does. Read slowly, not for speed, but for understanding. Train the body, not for vanity, but to strengthen the mind through effort. Refine your inner life, your habits, your reactions, your self-talk, so that when the outer world shifts, you are not unsettled by change, but aligned with it. Life will not wait, but if you prepare as the Stoic does, you will not need it to. Chapter 3. The Illusion of Forever. Despair often disguises itself as permanence. This will never end. I'll always feel this way. Nothing will ever improve. These are not truths but fears, conclusions drawn in the fog of discomfort, not in the light of perspective. The Stoic knows better. They know no moment controls the future. They understand time as a wheel, not a wall. What feels fixed today is already shifting. No storm has infinite strength. No sorrow can withstand the steady erosion of time and resilience. No shadow, no matter how long, can outlast the turning of the sun. The Stoic does not accept despair as final. They meet it with memory. They look back and gather proof, evidence that every past struggle was survived. Proof that even nights which felt endless gave way to morning. They recall the weight they once carried and how, step by step, it lifted. Pain, they know, is a visitor, not a resident. Every difficulty has had both a peak and a passing. You have already lived through days you thought would break you, and nights where light seemed impossible, yet you endured. You rose from setbacks you did not expect, and you built from ruins that once felt like endings. In that rising, you discovered something deeper than happiness. You discovered endurance. A peace that is not dependent on circumstances but on capability. A strength born from persistence, not ease. Every joy you have ever known was once preceded by effort, monotony, or hardship. Change is not foreign to you. You have been changing all along, physically, emotionally, spiritually. The only difference is awareness. Once you see the pattern, you realize nothing is ever final except your response to it. That realization is freedom. It breaks the chains of despair and frees you from being a prisoner of the present. The Stoic uses this awareness to resist the illusion of forever. They do not project fear into the future. They do not mistake emotion for prophecy. They refuse to add fear to fact. Instead, they remind themselves all things pass, both joy and sorrow, both hardship and ease. And this is not a reason for grief, but for strength. Because if sadness is temporary, then courage can endure. If despair fades, then hope has room to rise. If comfort is temporary, then vigilance must remain. Every moment is a wave, not a wall. You are not called to cling to what passes, but to move with it gracefully, steadily. To ride a wave is to know when to be still, when to adjust, when to press forward. It is to flow with the current, not to cling to the crest. Be humble in joy, steadfast in pain. Neither defines the whole horizon of your life. The Stoic sees impermanence not as instability, but as possibility. In motion, they find balance. In change, they find peace. For if everything passes, then despair cannot hold its throne. If nothing is forever, then everything is survivable. This truth steadies the Stoic when others collapse. They train their hearts to step back, to see the wider picture, to wait for the tide to turn before declaring the end. They do not deny the weight of suffering, but they refuse to give it permanence. They do not anchor identity in any single moment, not in loss, not in triumph. They do not let tragedy define them, nor allow success to seduce them into arrogance. They recognize both as passing actors in life's play. They neither overgrieve failure nor over-celebrate success. Both are clouds moving across the sky, never the sky itself. The Stoic stays centered, rooted in principle, not outcomes. Their strength lies not in what they encounter, but in how they respond to the rise and fall of fortune. Life is movement, wind, water, fire. And the Stoic, grounded and alert, moves with it. They become like a lighthouse in a storm-tossed world, not because they avoid the storm, but because they understand it will pass. And when it does, they remain, wiser, deeper, unshaken. In hardship they remind themselves, this too will end, not as empty comfort, but as steady truth. Say it until it no longer feels like hope, but like clarity. Say it when doubt circles your thoughts. Say it when the darkness whispers permanence. It is not blind optimism. It is the wisdom of time and the testimony of your own survival. Enjoy. Whisper it as well. Not to dim the light of happiness, but to remain humble within it. For joy, like sorrow, is a season. You are not its servant. Let this truth keep you steady when applause is loud and fortune smiles. Let it remind you that worth is not found in the peaks, but in the steadiness between them. Repeat these truths until they become more than words, until they become the roots of your endurance, the rhythm of your resilience, the calm that carries you through every season. Repeat these truths until they live in you, until they guide your thoughts, steady your rhythm, and become part of your soul's knowing. Nothing lasts forever, and that is not a curse. It is the gift, the freedom, the path. Chapter 4. Grow while you wait. When life slows, the untrained mind slows with it. Stillness becomes stagnation. Silence becomes anxiety. But the Stoics see stillness differently. Their mind does not idle. It sharpens. It turns inward with calm intention, reviewing its own structure, its patterns, its habits, not with judgment but with discipline. They examine their flaws without shame, for cracks are where the light of refinement enters. In quiet seasons, the Stoic identifies weaknesses in discipline, gaps in awareness, blind spots in perspective, and with steady effort they begin to sharpen, not to kill time, but to prepare for the return of motion. Where others waste the pause, longing for noise, the Stoic embraces silence as a forge. Most people measure growth only in what can be seen: money earned, recognition received, status improved. But the Stoic expands growth far beyond the visible. True growth is not tied to applause. It is cultivated in solitude. It is the discipline strengthened in the absence of reward. It is keeping promises to yourself when no one else is watching. Growth is finding pride in effort rather than outcome. It is developing strength to continue without praise, to refine character without an audience. Growth is honesty sharpened, emotions regulated, words honored in silence. It is the maturity to choose discomfort today for peace tomorrow. It is patience practiced when urgency would feel easier. It is seeing weakness clearly and responding not with guilt, but with steady correction. Growth is learning to sit with discomfort, not running from it, but listening to its lessons. When your life feels paused, it is not. It is preparing. Foundations are being laid beneath the surface. Life is never idle. It incubates, and so must you. The Stoic does not confuse dormancy with death. They recognize the silent periods as sacred soil, rich, vital, necessary. They understand the quiet between storms is not emptiness, but preparation. And they know what is unseen often matters most. It is the hidden roots that determine whether the tree will endure when the trial arrives. While many measure success by speed, the Stoic measures it by depth. Others wait for motion to feel alive, but the Stoic uses stillness to grow unshakable. When outward progress halts, they know inward transformation has its chance to thrive. In the pause, they are not stagnant. They are taking root. The Stoic uses these moments to sharpen skills, deepen self-trust, and strengthen character. They know transformation does not wait for perfect conditions. It begins exactly where you stand, especially when clarity is absent. They return to the writings of Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, not for lofty ideas, but for living guidance, principles to be tested in the hardest of days. Each passage becomes a mirror, each line a reminder. They draw discipline from the page and shape it into practice. Their body becomes part of this practice. Movement each morning is not about appearance, but about order, a rhythm, a quiet act of showing up. To them, the body and mind are not separate. They are companions in resilience. Training is a lesson, effort is sacred, and discomfort is not an enemy, but a teacher. Reflection follows the same path. The Stoic examines behavior without judgment, but with honesty. Solitude is not escape, but inquiry. They study their own patterns, not obsessively, but to uncover truths. Why do I delay what matters? Why do I avoid the hard conversation? Why do I chase distraction when I feel empty? With awareness, they rewrite habit, and with patience, they correct course. They tend to their thoughts as a gardener tends soil, removing weeds firmly, consistently, without haste. They listen to conscience not only when it shouts, but when it whispers. They face flaws not with shame, but with strategy. They lean into imperfection. They temper their strength as iron is tempered, through heat, resistance, and time. Turning inward is not withdrawal. It is reinforcement. They build in a scaffolding, ethical, emotional, spiritual, that can bear the weight of adversity. They learn to carry themselves through storms as a mountain carries snow, calm, steady, dignified. The work is quiet, but its results endure. It is not performance, it is preparation. For the Stoic, inner alignment is not optional. It is survival, it is armor, it is foundation, it is compass. Preparation is their strength, silent, patient, immovable. It is what holds steady when all else trembles. So even in uncertainty, especially in uncertainty, they set rituals. A ritual becomes a compass when direction fades. Rise with purpose, even if the purpose is small. Write not just what happened, but what it meant. Train your body not only for its form, but for the message it carries to the mind. I am in motion. I am capable. I am alive. Read not to consume, but to contemplate. Reflect, for the truest battles are within, and act always with discipline. Rest without guilt. Practice without applause. These rituals are not empty routines. They are anchors. They hold you steady when the winds of circumstance try to pull you away. They are proof that you have not abandoned your post, even when the world feels uncertain. Build yourself now, not only because change is near, but because change always comes. Build in the dark. Build in the quiet. Build in the pause. Strength born in solitude becomes force when action is required, and when the moment arrives, as it always does, you will not scramble for your footing. You will already be standing in your strength. Ready not because conditions favored you, but because you became the kind of person the moment requires. Chapter 5. Hope without dependency. The Stoic does not reject hope. They refine it. Hope is not the expectation that events bend to your will, nor is it a fragile wish cast into uncertainty. True hope is the belief that you will meet whatever comes with clarity, courage, and composure. Hope is not passive waiting. It is active readiness. It is forged in discipline, not daydreams. To hope that circumstances will change is to place your peace in the hands of chance. It leaves you scanning the horizon, making your joy conditional, your peace unstable. But to hope that you will be prepared when change comes, that is power. That is hope grounded in training, in practice, in the daily commitment to resilience. This hope cannot be broken by disappointment, because it does not rest on outcomes. It rests on who you are becoming. The Stoic's hope is not fragile. It is tempered like steel, hardened by struggle, sharpened by failure, polished by perspective. It burns quietly, a steady fire that does not flicker when the winds rise. Many lose themselves in waiting. They pause their lives for a future event, a role, a relationship, a stroke of fortune. But the Stoic lives differently. Their hope is not tied to what may come, but to who they are when it comes. Many become spectators of their own lives, standing on the sidelines as time quietly slips past. They stall progress. They postpone peace. They withhold joy, waiting for the right condition, the perfect moment, the long-awaited arrival. They tell themselves, "I'll begin once this happens." But what they wait for is not salvation. It is distraction. They anchor their hope to a single outcome, and in doing so, surrender their agency. Their emotional stability becomes tied to one fragile variable. When it finally arrives, they exhale not out of readiness, but from exhaustion, relief without transformation. And when it does not arrive, they collapse, because their hope was dependency, not strength. Their joy was borrowed, not owned. The Stoic refuses that trap. They do not place their soul on layaway. They do not condition peace on timelines, or bargain joy with the future. They live today, not recklessly, but consciously. They draw meaning from the ordinary, beauty from the overlooked, strength from the process itself. They do not delay presence. They do not allow their spirit to be held hostage by expectation. For them, waiting is never passive. It is practice. It is preparation. It is the shaping of the soul for whatever is to come. In waiting, they become the version of themselves that the future will require. Hope for the Stoic is not desperate anticipation. It is quiet confidence. It is not a plea. It is a posture. It rests on preparation, on daily discipline, on the calm belief in one's own ability to face and endure. It is steady hands in a trembling world, a calm breath before the leap, a quiet, unwavering yes to the unknown, not because the outcome is certain, but because their character is. They do not hope for easy days. They prepare for resilient ones. They do not crave a flawless world. They train for a turbulent one. For the Stoic understands, the highest hope is not that everything will go right, but that they will remain upright, whatever unfolds. Their faith is not in fate, but in readiness. Their security is not borrowed from the world, but carried within. So when the thought arises, "I hope this works out," they answer calmly, "and if not, I will still rise." Said not with fear, but with steadiness. Said with grounded feet, open chest, steady breath. A reminder that peace is not built on outcomes, but on resilience. That life may bend, but they are not brittle. That hardship may come, but they are not helpless. That results may change, but their identity rests in action, not approval. Let this be the Stoic's motto, not just a phrase for comfort, but a discipline in motion, a quiet vow to rise, always. Let this be your weapon, not one of force, but of fortitude. Let it cut through panic. Let it quiet doubt. Let it become the internal refrain that turns uncertainty into composure. The Stoic repeats this mantra, not to convince themselves, but to anchor themselves, because what is anchored cannot be swept away. Chapter 6. Reframe the wait. To the Stoic, waiting is not emptiness. It is an invitation. Life's pauses are not voids to endure. They are workshops for the soul. When nothing shifts around you, everything can shift within you. The untrained mind sees waiting as wasted time. The Stoic sees it as active ground for becoming. It is not absence, it is refinement. Waiting is where character is tested, clarified, and strengthened. Reframing it means reclaiming the present. Instead of asking, "When will this be over?" the Stoic asks, "What am I becoming in the meantime?" The time between seasons is not dead. It is sacred. Here, in the quiet, the strongest parts of us are shaped not under spotlights, but in the steady furnace of endurance. This shift transforms helplessness into mastery. When waiting is preparation, not punishment, you reclaim your agency. You sharpen, you realign, you shape the person who will walk into what comes next, not as a beggar of outcomes, but as an author of meaning. Every pause becomes an arena for internal mastery. Emotions, attention, commitment. Time becomes not something to endure, but something to cultivate. Chapter 7. Adapt without losing yourself. Change is inevitable. It is the pulse of existence, the unrelenting rhythm of time. The Stoic does not fear it. They respect it as a natural force. They do not try to freeze the river. They learn to move within its current. Rigidity is not strength. It is brittleness. True resilience requires movement. The Stoic prepares not only with plans, but with internal clarity, discipline, and strength. Adaptation is not abandoning principles. It is applying them under shifting conditions. They bend without breaking, accommodate without losing form. The scenery may change, but their compass remains guided by virtue. They do not merely survive the unexpected, they integrate it. When circumstances shift, the untrained mind reacts with panic or resistance. The Stoic responds with measured adjustment, calm, and steady alignment. They move with life, yet remain rooted in what matters most. The untrained mind panics. It clings. It flees. It looks backward, longing for stability, or forward, frozen by what it cannot control. The Stoic acts differently. They adjust their posture, not their integrity. They bend without breaking. They evolve without losing themselves. Their adaptability is not compromise. It is strength of character. They do not change to fit the moment. They refine themselves to meet it with precision. They do not conform to circumstance. They realign with conscience, to move with life without being moved by every emotion, trend, or disruption. This is Stoic fluidity. They evolve without becoming unrecognizable. They learn from the world without becoming its servant. They sharpen their edges without severing their core. This adaptation is not shapelessness. It is deliberate flexibility. It is conscious motion guided by unwavering values. It is the discipline to remain rooted in awareness, even when everything around you shifts. It is the ability to stay calm amid the unexpected, to remain clear in a world built on confusion, to balance on unstable ground without yielding. The Stoic does not collapse under pressure. They refine. They stay light on their feet and heavy in principle. It is the strength to say, "I will not be broken by this. I will be refined." They face discomfort directly, responding with intention rather than impulse. This is not suppression of emotion. It is mastery of response. Chaos is not an excuse to abandon reason. They do not ask, "How do I survive this?" They ask, "How can I meet this moment fully, faithfully, and with principle?" This question becomes their compass in the storm. They are not reactive. They are responsive. Reaction is instinct. Response is intentional. One is wild, the other whis. They step into change with quiet command, not because they know the future, but because they know themselves, and more importantly, who they refuse to become. Their identity is not negotiable, even when circumstances demand adjustment. flexible in form but firm at the core. Like a tree bending in the wind without uprooting, they remain grounded. Their decisions reflect who they are, not just what they feel. That is their peace. That is their power. To remain yourself in chaos, you must first know yourself in calm. This is why daily self-reflection is essential. Journaling is not a chore, it is a lifeline. They write not to be poetic, but to be precise, tracking the weather of their mind, spotting storms before they rise, and tracing clarity where it has waned. They study their responses like a careful observer, map their thought patterns with intention, and refine motives like a sculptor chiseling away excess. They examine impulses and question assumptions, knowing that self-deception is subtle but dangerous. They do not fear being wrong. They fear not understanding themselves. They fear living unconsciously. To act without awareness is to surrender one's agency. They do not seek perfection, but clarity. Awareness is their armor. Awareness is their edge. They understand that a life unobserved is not truly lived. It is merely endured. They refuse to drift through the world asleep to themselves. They would rather face the truth than be comforted by delusion. With clarity, they meet life's shifts not as disoriented victims, but as attentive participants. They are not spectators of their own transformation. They are its sculptors. They take responsibility for their shape. Life does not reshape them blindly. They shape themselves in light of it. They turn experience into raw material, wisdom, strength, insight, and a clearer sense of self. They sculpt their reactions rather than surrender to them. They hold the chisel. They choose the angles. The Stoic moves through change not lost, but aligned, not tossed by waves, but attuned to their rhythm. They do not seek to escape life's currents. They learn to navigate them with skill and purpose. This is not detachment. It is rooted engagement. It is mastery of motion without losing one's core. This is how you adapt without losing yourself, not by clinging, but by centering, not by resisting, but by guiding action with principle. As life shifts, reaffirm your values repeatedly. Repetition is not weakness, it is how roots grow deeper. Write them down often. Let ink remind you who you are when change clouds your mind. Speak them aloud. Let them be your oaths, your prayers, your anchors against the tides of uncertainty. Let these values form your foundation, especially when the world feels unfamiliar or unstable. In chaos, clarity comes from within. In transition, stability is self-authored. Adapt your methods, not your mission. Change tactics, not truth. Be flexible in how you act, but immovable in why you act. Let the external world shift as it must. Keep your inner compass aimed at the good, the just, the wise, and the courageous. This is how the Stoic navigates storms, by steering from a center that cannot be moved. Chapter 8. Trust in cycles, not certainty. The world moves in cycles, night to day, winter to spring, inhale to exhale. There is a natural rhythm to existence, a pulse underlying every rise and fall. Certainty is an illusion, one that binds those who demand it. Those who seek fixed outcomes in a changing world are destined for suffering. The Stoic places trust in patterns, not predictions. While events are unpredictable, the underlying rhythms are not. Timing may be uncertain, but direction is dependable. Loss gives way to renewal. Stillness is followed by motion. Emptiness eventually makes space for growth. All that fades prepares the way for something new. The Stoic moves through life with a quiet assurance that even decline holds the seed of ascent. When peace is tied to certainty, every shift feels threatening. You clutch outcomes, you cling to control, and when the inevitable disruption comes, you unravel because your peace was rented, not rooted. When peace is tied to rhythm instead, you move with life rather than against it. You become part of something larger than the moment. The Stoic does not resist endings. They lean into them. They understand that trying to preserve what must pass only cultivates suffering. Their mind is trained to see beginnings hidden within every ending. They do not mourn change. They meet it with readiness. This trust is not passive or naive. It is earned through observation, stillness, reflection, and humility. The Stoic knows disruption is inevitable, yet they are prepared. They read patterns not only in the world, but within themselves. They observe habits, moods, triggers, and cycles of strength and fatigue. Like a sailor reading the tides, they learn when to rest, when to push, when to reflect, when to act. Their life is guided not by control, but by consciousness, not by rigidity, but by alignment. They live in cooperation with nature, not resistance to it. They do not demand that life remain constant. They become constant within it. This is how they remain calm through disruption, grounded through change, not because they know what comes next, but because they trust the rhythm. The wheel turns, the river flows, the light returns. Observe the cycles in your own life, your energy, your emotions, your successes, your setbacks. Release the demand for permanent highs. Respect the ebb and flow. Use each season for what it offers: learning, building, healing, advancing. Chapter 9. Identity is built in the in-between. The in-between, when you are no longer who you were but not yet who you are becoming, is often the most transformative space. These quiet crucibles test character without applause. This is where the Stoic places immense value. The world chases milestones, recognition, and visibility. But the Stoic prioritizes internal consistency over external acclaim. While others seek confirmation through praise or titles, the Stoic defines themselves by how they carry uncertainty, with patience, with discipline, with inner clarity. Identity is not found in accolades, outcomes, or applause. It is revealed in consistency, in measured response, in the way one stands under pressure. It is discovered in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in the in-between when the next chapter is not yet visible. The Stoic does not chase identity. They refine it through practice. Identity is built not by declaration, but by repetition. Each morning ritual, each held boundary, each choice to delay comfort for purpose, these are the unseen actions that shape who they are. They cultivate the kind of self their future self will respect, not the person who always had certainty, but the one who remained grounded, honest, and upright through transition. Not the one who merely appeared strong, but the one who endured quietly when everything shifted. This perspective brings peace amidst uncertainty. It changes the question from where am I going to who am I being while I go. You do not need a complete map to start moving. You do not need to see the summit to take the next step. You only need alignment. You only need to act in accordance with your deepest values. Each step in congruence with your principles makes identity tangible, not someday, but now. Every choice in the waiting shapes the self you carry into the next season. The Stoic does not postpone identity. They earn it daily through consistent, deliberate action. Who you are is always being written, not in grand gestures, but in the small, repeated acts. In the way you stand during uncertainty, in the words you speak when unsure, in the disciplines you honor when no one is holding you accountable. The in-between is not purgatory. It is process. It is not delay. It is design. It is not pause. It is the deepening of foundation. Stop defining yourself by your position. Define yourself by how you show up. Let your posture speak louder than circumstance. Be the person your future self will thank, not for results alone, but for effort, for resilience, for steadfastness. Let each moment of transition become another layer of who you are becoming. Walk the in-between with purpose. That is where your strength is tested. That is where your identity is forged. Chapter 10. Life will change. So change with intention. Life will change, and with it, you will change, whether by design or by default, whether consciously or unconsciously. The Stoic refuses to leave that transformation to chance. They understand that change is a sculptor, and they will not be shaped blindly. They take the chisel into their own hands. They shape themselves as life reshapes the landscape. They walk forward, not in resistance but in readiness, not with fear, but with deliberate purpose. They do not merely respond to life, they co-author it. So strength is not found in what happens, but in what they do in response. Their power is proactive, not reactive. When life tests them, they do not ask, "Why me?" a question that leads nowhere. They ask, "What now?" a question that moves them forward. They do not plead for easier paths. They build stronger steps. They see adversity not as an obstacle but as an invitation to rise, to refine, to act with clarity. Change, they learn, is not an enemy. It is a mirror, a teacher, a sculptor, and the Stoic is its willing clay, moldable, yet never formless. This is not passive surrender. It is courageous collaboration. It takes strength to yield to what cannot be controlled, and greater strength to shape what can be, even within the storm. The Stoic meets change halfway, not frozen, not flinching, but prepared, already practicing, already refining, already releasing what no longer fits who they are becoming. They do not cling to the old when it is time for the new. They do not fight to preserve what was never meant to last. They do not fear change. They partner with it. They walk beside it, alert and humble, knowing that growth never comes without friction and truth never comes without stripping. So should you. Do not merely endure life's shifts. Use them. Press your identity into the moment. Let the challenge teach you. Let the friction refine your clarity. Let the pressure sharpen your strength. Trust that life is not breaking you. It is building you. It is revealing you. It is carving away what you never needed and uncovering who you truly are beneath it all. Meet change with presence, with steady feet and open eyes, and it will elevate you rather than sweep you away. Change does not have to disorient you. It can define you. Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. That is the line between the drifting and the disciplined. Choose growth. Choose presence. Choose responsibility. Choose practice. Build a self so steady, so deliberate, so deeply aligned with truth that when life shifts, as it always will, you remain unshaken. Walk with purpose. Walk with calm. Walk with power. Become a lighthouse, not a leaf in the wind. To live like the Stoic is not to escape life's changes. It is to meet them with poise and intention. Let every turn strengthen your stride. Let every change deepen your clarity. Let every unplanned chapter become part of a story you are proud to live. Do not wait for change to redeem you. Redeem yourself through preparation, through clarity, through action. The Stoic knows that what changes is not the source of your peace. Who you are, that is where your power lives. And that power is yours, if you choose to live like the Stoic mindset.